Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Fan Forum. We thought it was going to be called the Therapy Forum. 2-0 up, 3-2 down. No bother, man. We just send on Harry Maguire to sort things out. But in terms of a result, what does it mean for Manchester United? Does it make any difference to where you stand on Erik ten Hag and his future? Make sure you get your messages in. We will be reading them out. We want to get into this. We're going to dissect it. I'm very happy to announce that on the Fan Forum this evening, we've got Usmaan. How are you, sir?
Absolutely drained after that.
Roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot to, dissect. I'm sure we've got a lot to discuss, but yeah, I'm tired after that, watching that. Just let them play now.
We sure have. And you are on countdown to kick off. You are back, Dan. How are you?
Or
Danielson, as I called you at the start.
Yeah, same. A little bit tired, to be honest, but yeah, what can we make of that?
Yeah, and becoming a regular here as well, Tull.
Yeah, same as Usmaan, mate. Feel like I've done a 12-hour night shift.
Are you feeling like Anthony Joshua the other week? You're trying to pick yourself up off the canvas.
What's your gripe with Joshua? That's two things. Two things that Joshua is.
I'm not a big fan, to be honest.
We gathered.
Because he's a bit of a fraud. But listen, this ain't the boxing stand. It is the United stand. And what I want to do first, I'll get the thoughts of the game, and then we're going to go through each moment. We've got 6 goals, a sending off. There's question marks over Marcus Rashford. Why did he come off at half-time? We will get into that. But Usmaan, as you know, a brief. Listen, I know you like to talk, so take the floor. But in terms of the actual performance, what was it all about, man? How do we even set about breaking this down?
I mean, I'm going to start with the obvious, which is probably what everyone's thinking is Martinez is definitely Erik ten Hag out. That was one of the worst performance I've seen from a centre-back pairing in a long time. I mean, the whole back line was an absolute shambles against Tottenham, and it seems like they carried on within that same manner. I think, to be fair to Maguire, it wasn't that bad, but Delo in particular got absolutely cooked, and a lot of it was down to Marcus Rashford not tracking back, which of course we will talk about the substitution. But yeah, all in all, that was just a car crash. I mean, it was reminiscent of last season. We were all watching the game together at 2-0. Not one of us had a smile on our face because we knew what was going to come. And unfortunately, last season's PTSD reigned true, and we were all right to feel the way we did. So, yeah, an absolute mess.
But did you not leap out of your seat when Harry Maguire scored? And
Sheffield's finest, mate. Sheffield's finest. Listen, you got to celebrate every goal we can get. But yeah, all in all, car crash.
Yeah, Dan, can you back that up, or are you a bit more optimistic as a result? Because I think at 3-2 down, you're looking at taking a point from FC 20 and FC Porto in the opening games. Is this a good point gain this evening on reflection?
I think it's fair. I think both teams did have chances to take, and obviously United took theirs in the end through Harry Maguire. But there are the bigger concerns about the back line being disjointed, just too many spaces in midfield yet again, and United don't have control of the ball again. So there's certain key highlights which we'll come into in a minute, but chaos again. It's just one end to the extreme constantly with United. We either win at the moment or lose. It's simple as, and either way it goes heavily either way.
Yeah. It's not sustainable. I will just get through these super chats really quickly. Alberto, welcome to the United Stand Members Club. Ollie Ward, again, welcome to the United Stand Members Club. Swami says Harry Potter and some kind of emoji, which, is great. I suppose you're excited. Is that something to do with Harry Maguire?
That's probably magic.
Harry Potter? That's what it is. Is it some kind of wizardry that's going on this evening? That's what it is. He is a wizard. And Khaled says, let's stop the favouritism. Martinez is slow and De Ligt was bullied. They were the worst of the bad, and Bruno should never play for us again. We are going to break this down, like I say. I'll get the thoughts of them very quickly, and then we'll take it all the way back to the opening goal, go through these goals, look through individual performances. But Tull, are you going to echo what the two other lads have said, or have you got anything really more to add to that? I mean, I know you said you're a bit deflated, you're kind of picking yourself up, which maybe some of the viewers will look at and think, well, come on, we've just snatched more or less an injury time equaliser, or are you not seeing it like that?
I feel absolutely miserable, mate.
That's the spirit.
I feel completely miserable, to be honest with you. And the mental thing is, before the game, I said if we took a draw, I'd be happy. And I've still come out of it feeling like I feel like I've been robbed.
Because
somehow.
of the manner in how it happened.
It's the manner. So obviously, coming into the game, I said we won't beat Porto away. So if we take a point away from home, just win your game in this format. If you just win your games at home, take a couple points away from home, you'll get through. But I've still, just because of the manner of how we've done it, to go 2 goals up, which, in all fairness, even though the Eriksen pass to Hojlund for the second goal was good, and even though Rashford's little run for his goal was good, realistically the keeper's done us a massive favour. Let's be honest. Should we have been 2 goals up? You could argue probably not. And then for us to go and spew a 2-goal lead, and I think we'd played about 25-30 minutes. The difference between 25-30 minutes was being 2-0 up and being 3-2 down. That's players that aren't playing for the manager, and I just don't think there's a way back for Ten Hag. I think he's lost the players, and I think we are seeing the beginning of the end.
Right, hard-hitting opinions. We will get back to that in a bit. So, let's rewind. Bit of DJ work there going on. Let's rewind to the 7th minute, which it seems an eternity ago now. It seems absolute weeks ago that Marcus Rashford actually opened the scoring in this game, Usmaan, to make it 1-0. Fantastic footwork. Your guy, the keeper that you wanted at Manchester United, didn't really set the world alight. What did I say to you at the time? I said a bit of a Nana, shades of a Nana, couldn't get down, and then pulled off some really good saves in the game. But in terms of Rashford's kind of performance and that goal, it was the Casemiro ball, wasn't it? Into Eriksen. Eriksen played really, really well this evening. Into Rashford. Rashford, shades of what he was when he was scoring goals, in that season where he couldn't stop scoring goals. But as a confidence booster, we're going to in fact, we might as well get into it now, but just in terms of the actual goal itself, it was shades of the old Rashford, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think for me personally, what we want to see from Rashford is getting the ball and being direct and, being his confident self. Like you've kind of mentioned, he was very fortunate with the goal actually going in, because we'll all agree the keeper definitely should have saved it. But nonetheless, it was more so the positive actions that I was more focused on from Rashford. At the end of the day, he's got to do his bit. Of course, we've got a bit of luck on this occasion, but I think for me, Rashford was just a breath of fresh air in that first half. In terms of going forward, of course, defensively is a different question. I do think he massively let Delo down in that first half. That fullback had the space of the entirety of that pitch to whip a ball in, and he was absolutely phenomenal. So we saw the best and the worst of Rashford within 45 minutes. And obviously Ten Hag made his decision off the back of that. But yeah, for me personally, in terms of the positives, it's just good to see him playing with that sort of tenacity, that directness, and just a bit of confidence, because the truth of the matter is he's been awful for a long period now. I know in the last couple of weeks he's started to find his form again, and he's very much a purple patch player in my personal opinion. And I think it's just a matter of riding that wave as it is with Rashford. And I'm just happy he got his start, as we said in the build-up, and I'm happy he delivered, because it's important for him with Garnacho as competition that he actually does stuff on the pitch rather than living off his reputation.
Yeah. United 1 says Rash was man of the match. More agenda from Mark. Why sub him? We will get into this very, very well. We're going to have to cover it, aren't we? But I just want to get your opinions on Rashford first. Callie says Leaker, the vegetarian, Bambi Martinez. Again, come on, man. What the hell does that mean? But Dan, let's talk Marcus Rashford. I know you were giving a glowing kind of reference of him during that first half. We're going to get into the reasons of why Erik Ten Hag might have subbed him, but did he kind of look back to his best at that stage?
Yeah, he seemed like a completely different player, didn't he? Because most recently you see him get the ball on the wing and pass it back, and then that's sort of that phase of play that's ended. But today, for whatever reason, he was just on form. And running at the Porto back line, you thought every time he was going to run, he was going to either create something, yeah. And for him to get taken off in the second half for rotation reasons doesn't sort of add up. I do get the tactical bit with João Mario putting the crosses in for Porto, but equally, you need that attacking threat. Rashford was the only attacking outlet down that left-hand side for United for the majority of that first half, really. So you take him out, and then where was the outlet coming in the second half? Nowhere.
This is where it doesn't really make much sense, and I'm sure over this evening, over the next couple of days, we'll probably get to hear maybe some kind of truth. We know that Manchester United, the roof leaks at Old Trafford, and we get leaks in the changing rooms from the players. But Erik ten Hag suggesting he took off Marcus Rashford as part of his squad rotation. Talking after the game, he says, "Don't judge us in this moment. Judge us at the end of the season." And that was coming in from Simon Stone. Apparently, he's talking to TNT after the game. So that is the quote, Tull. You did say, actually, that you did think that it was going to be for some kind of tactical reason, where I was not blinkered, but I was like, there is not a chance he has been taken off for rotational reasons. I was like, this guy has been, brought off. He must be injured. We are actually hearing now that it was for rotational purposes. So, in fairness, you've got this one absolutely spot on. Give us your view on Rashford in that kind of first half, and then tell the viewers exactly what you thought about taking him off at half time, basically.
Well, we all saw what he can do going forward. The goal and an assist in one half of football. Whether the goal should have gone in or not, you can't discredit that. I've not watched it back. It's one of those where you have to watch it back, and I know Rick will be right on it. But when their fullback must have put in 10 mint crosses in the space of 10 minutes or so. In that 10 minutes when we went from 2-0 up to they made it 2-2, we were saying Rashford's got to sit in. Rashford's got to sit in and just help Dalot out here, because we're getting absolutely hammered down that right-hand side. As soon as they said Garnacho was warming up, the first thing I thought was they're changing that side, because we're getting battered down that side. So, and that quote as well, it's kind of vague.
Rotational purposes.
It's kind of vague. Well, that's not even what he's not even said rotation himself. He's just said wait till the end of the season. To me, that gives me the impression that Rashford's been bollocked at half time, and he's kind of just doesn't want the media.
Something's happened, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Now, what are your thoughts on it, Usmaan? Is it as simple as taking off? And let's not beat around the bush here. Rashford was clearly the best player, on the pitch at this stage of being brought off, which is why I was thinking he clearly must be injured to bring him off. It doesn't make any sense. Tull makes great points as well about the fact, on that side, if you are getting done, but do you think something's happened in the changing room?
Just firstly, I think Erik ten Hag's got a lot of audacity to assume he'll be here at the end of the season, because he definitely won't be. He doesn't deserve to be here come past the Villa game, regardless of what that result is. But in terms of the Rashford situation, for me, it's very simple. If he had an issue with the tactical setup, how about he grew a pair and took Bruno Fernandes off and put Agati there and put Eriksen in the 10, because Agati and Casemiro could have covered Rashford, because Rashford was the only attacker that actually turned up today. So for me, it's just an absolute cop-out. I did say I understand the logic, but the truth of the matter is he wouldn't take Bruno Fernandes off. He never does. And Bruno Fernandes took himself off back-to-back games and somehow still stays on the pitch. God knows how. It's absolutely baffling. Look, the way I see it is, right, when you've got an attack in that vein of form, you do everything in your powers to make sure you try and get the best out of that player. We know Rashford can be lazy tracking back. I'm not denying that, and I understand the logic. However, take Bruno off, put Eriksen in the 10, bring Agati on, and say, look, I need you to just do a job, similar to how Henderson used to do for Trent at Liverpool. It's exactly the carbon copy. Let Rashford do his thing. He's absolutely crucifying their fullback. That fullback's absolutely buzzing when he hears Rashford getting subbed off, because he's probably got nightmares right now thinking about it, because I've never seen a defence back into their own box that much that they were scared to put in a challenge. I don't even remember them actually putting in a challenge. Like, he was driving at them and driving them back to the box. So for me, Ten Hag made the wrong call in taking him off because it was a cowardice call. Because at the end of the day, with Manchester United Football Club, we needed to win that game, and he took the safe bet. And yeah, okay, Garnacho's come on, and Garnacho was, in my opinion, he wasn't great, but he did nullify their threat on that wing. So from that perspective, it has helped us, but it didn't help us going forward. And you took off literally our best attacking threat by an absolute mile. It wasn't even close. So yeah, I think you made the wrong substitution.
Do you think there's more to this, Dan? Is it as simple as rotational?
Well,
is this just a buzzword that's being thrown out this moment in time to maybe try and shut people down like us? There'll be loads of people up and down the country this evening, United fans, discussing this, because I think personally Marcus Rashford has played a lot worse in games, and at half-time I've probably said he needs to get Rashford off now. He hasn't. I've been at Old Trafford before when I've seen Garnacho get brought off, before Rashford. I've heard the boos, people booing Erik ten Hag for his decision to keep Rashford on the pitch. In the one moment you've got Marcus Rashford, who's just had a really good 45 minutes of football, terrifying the FC Porto backline, could have had another goal before half-time. The one, if he'd have pulled the trigger maybe a little bit earlier, took an extra touch, and the moment went. But the Porto players, the manager's barking orders at them, but you could tell they were kind of looking over going, what do you want me to do? Pure pace, power, direct.
Well, this is what I don't understand. In-game management from Ten Hag, where is it? Because if Rashford's not tracking back, that's his job. That's his job to tell Rashford to track back, to cover João Mario, to stop those crosses going in. So it is fine making the substitutions, don't get me wrong. But if you communicate that on the pitch first, say to Rashford, you know what, just for 10 minutes, just slot in back in the midfield into the defence as well, just to do a job because he's whipping balls in every 10 minutes, then that could solve a problem. And then Rashford might not get subbed off at half-time. It's as simple as that. But he just decides to stand there and there's no tactics on... he's not giving instructions out, sorry.
He was
on the
busy
sideline.
playing Candy Crush on his iPad, to be fair.
He did have the notebook out one stage, didn't he? He was writing something down.
He was doodling, just random...
I'm sure we will find out, that there's no smoke without fire, and I suppose it depends. Obviously, we've got a massive game as well that we'll try and get into a little bit later on towards the end of the show, which was Villa, or will be Villa, sorry. But in keeping, with this game, let me just read these super chats very quickly. Shahin says, Ten Hag, my man, you might not see the end of the week at United, let alone end of the season. Shenanigans says it was for defensive reasons. Ten Hag said it was rotational, then kept emphasising our defending wasn't good enough, which is something that you have kind of said, isn't it? But at the same time, like Dan says, you would think that a professional footballer like Rashford, if he's prepared to sacrifice and do his bit for the team, I take them points on board. But at the same time, I think Usmaan's just made the point that you can get that cover in there. If you've got a player that's on fire that much, why would you take him out when you can make them little tweaks?
But remember what Hargreaves said against FC20 when Garnacho was getting subbed on. Hargreaves heard Ten Hag saying to Garnacho, defend. Yeah. So quite clearly his emphasis or the way he wants to set his team up is defensively sound first. And I think Dan was absolutely spot on in terms of just take accountability. Just if you've got an issue with Rashford, just tell him to come slot in and just sit there for 10 minutes. He didn't even give Rashford the opportunity to rectify his wrongs and took him off when he's got a goal and assist, when he's been awful for 18 months. He's finally finding form. He drops him the other day and now he subs him off. It's a bit weird, isn't it?
It's a great bit of reference, that, from Usmaan, from when Garnacho came on against Twente, and that's what Hargreaves said. He said he was just drilling in defence to Garnacho.
But is that because Garnacho's at an age now where he's easier to mould, whereas a Marcus Rashford, well, he is one of the more so-called senior players at this club, aren't they? Well, surely the youngsters would look up to him. Is he at the point now where he thinks, no, I'm my own player, you can't be teaching me to track back now?
I don't think there's a long-term... I don't think it's a long-term thing. I think it's just a right here, right now, he's not doing it, you get in there and do it, sort of thing. I know what we were saying about, Rashford was our main threat going forward. But where Ten Hag is right now, with his job on the line, I think his main priority today was not get beat. I don't think his priority was to, go and score another 2 goals. If we were 2 goals up, he would have been drilling into them today. Don't be shipping goals, don't get beat. We've gone 2 goals up, and then we spew 2 goals in, 8 minutes. He's going to be fuming. He's going to be livid. He's going to be absolutely livid. And it wouldn't surprise me if Rashford got an earful at half time, because obviously, maybe he has come out and told him on the sideline. Maybe someone has told Rashford on the sideline, get back in and just stay in and out Dallo. We don't know if he's done it or not, but regardless if he has done it or not, if we've conceded 2 goals from that side and lost a 2-goal lead in the space of 8 minutes, that is poor. And to be honest with you, I don't really blame him for making the sub. So, I don't know. It's hard, isn't it? It's one of those where I said to you, you get it right, you're a genius. Yeah. If you get it right, everyone says you're a genius, a tactician. You get it wrong, you're just an idiot. So
which one is he?
The latter.
I don't know. I don't want to throw too specific words out there, mate. Yeah.
Just do it blank.
You make a good politician, you tell. But what he has done is certainly created a huge division between the player and the manager. If we're talking about leaks, if we're talking about certain players that aren't on board with Erik ten Hag, we have heard, you mentioned earlier, Dan, in the Countdown to Kickoff show about Benny McCarthy, saying that some players weren't taking certain instructions on board. You could kind of start putting 2 and 2 together and think, well, is Rashford one of them that, I just can't believe for 1 minute that a player that has, been brought up in Wythenshawe, Manchester through and through, Red and all this, would actually, in a Europa League game, look at his manager and not, if he's refused to carry out the instruction that's resulted in him being brought off, I think it's quite disgraceful, to be honest.
It's not, I don't think it's out of, I don't think it's a case of...
I know you hear about dressing room bust-ups and all this, but...
I don't think it's a case of Rashford going, I'm not doing that. It's just a lack of concentration. And Rashford's been called out for it loads of times in the past. That's why I'm not surprised, Garnacho's been pulled on with that specific instruction. And in all fairness, that fullback didn't do much in the second half, and he actually got subbed off about 70, 80 minutes in. It wasn't the same as the first half, where he was literally putting dangerous cross after dangerous cross. Every cross was landed on the 6-yard line.
Yeah, it was mad.
It was like he could cross a ball in, mate.
And he said, it did stop after that.
And it didn't really happen in the second half. So that aspect of the game where we did concede 2 goals from got nullified. So,
Do you think that's the reason, Dan, last season that we spoke about earlier, the fact that Erik ten Hag, that he went with Anthony on occasions where we thought, wow, why is he playing Anthony? Is it purely now down to the fact that Erik ten Hag likes defensive-minded wingers, if you call them that?
Possibly, yeah. I think just anyone who understands what he's saying to them, essentially, and where he wants them, he's fine with. And Anthony, he didn't want to play left-back against Liverpool in the FA Cup quarter-final last year, but he did it.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing, he did it, and he took one for the team, and look at what ended up happening. So if there's players willing to do those jobs and types of roles, then I'm sure he'll choose them over people who aren't. But I don't think with Rashford, it's a factor of him not listening. I just don't feel like it's being communicated to him on the pitch. And if it is, it's very poor.
Good point, that. Dave Thomas, continue to get your super chats in, your comments, let us know on Marcus Rashford, the game this evening. Was it a good point, or is he just papering over the cracks in terms of Erik ten Hag at Manchester United? I did hear a lot of people that were going down the route of they would have liked to have seen Manchester United kind of, beaten this evening and beaten on Sunday to get rid of Ten Hag, which is not something that sits well with me. I could never watch 90 plus minutes of my team wishing that my own team got beat, to see a manager sacked. At the same time, I understand there's frustration in the fan base, and there's obviously fans out there that would like to see change. But whether this is viewed as a positive result or a good result, none of us know, do we? We can only say it as fans, but you've got Ineos, you've got the hierarchy in there now. Will this be deemed sort of good enough for them? That's a question in itself. Again, we will get into, but Dave Thomas says, Mark needs calling out for celebrating that shit show like it was a win. It was garbage. Hashtag better without Bruno. That's something we'll get into in a bit as we take our little journey through the game. Ollie Long, member for 30 months, says defence was poor, but you might as well have sloths playing in midfield. How can we play a high press if no legs? Would rather play park the bus football. I think we can agree that the midfield was not on the quickest of pace today.
It's not a pressing midfield, is it?
No.
It actually touches on something important though that I brought up before. When we had Van Gaal and Mourinho, we were desperate to move away from that type of pragmatic football.
Yeah.
And we're like, we need to play more progressive, more modern football. Whereas now you look at that set of players, you almost think we'd actually benefit from a manager just coming in and setting us up in the back five and playing more basic shithouse football. We probably would actually...
Bit of a backbone.
We'd probably actually benefit from going back to that, to be honest.
Barney says, every other top team would have one of their holding midfielders covering that side. We shouldn't be relying on Rashford to score and then blame him for the goals. I think that's something that we've kind of touched on there. Usmaan made the point that you possibly could have, brought on Ugarte, to cover that area of the field. If he goes out to that side, give Rashford the freedom. And top teams will do this with top players, won't they? You do have to accommodate them. And especially in a game like that, it just seems so strange that the decision was made to bring off Marcus Rashford. Personally, I think there's more to it. Again, I think we will find out. Callum P says, I'd keep Erik ten Hag purely for what he said on Rashi's being subbed. Bradley Morehouse, welcome to the United Stand Members Club. Terrace Roberts says Ten Hag tactics need to be questioned in midfield. Scandinavian 88, member for 19 months, says strong point would be in 2010 as well. Porto ain't no kindergarten team, especially not away. Anders says that midfield had more holes than Swiss cheese. There's a super chat the evening so far. You're on the leaderboard, mate. And Anthony Tracy says Bruno and Rashford wouldn't be picked by Pep. I don't think a single player in the Manchester United squad would be picked by Pep Guardiola, but that's probably testament to how good their squad is as well. So don't send me down on this journey, man. I was feeling upbeat when Harry Maguire scored, and now we got talking about Manchester City. But again, let's rewind. Let's take it back. We discussed the Rashford goal. We've discussed obviously why Erik ten Hag brought him off at half-time. We know that it was for rotational purposes. I think there's something gone on, but it seems madness to look back again. A player that we were speaking about in the build-up, the countdown to kick-off show was Rasmus Hojlund, and the inclusion, Usmaan, of Rasmus Hojlund in this team. We were excited to see him pressing from the front. We've not had this number 9. We've had Xerxes, we've had Bruno playing the false 9. Today, we had that number 9. And from the start, I thought he pressed really, really well. I did say, didn't I? Was like, can he keep this up? It's his first start in a long, long time. But on the 19th minute, Hojlund gets his goal. Manchester United go 2-0 up. What were your overall thoughts on Hojlund's kind of game?
Yeah, I think Hojlund, obviously his first game back, I wasn't expecting a lot apart from a brace, obviously, so I wasn't expecting too much. He got half of what I asked for, so no, look, again, very fortunate with the goal, but I was happy to see the movement. Obviously, Rashford playing the ball in. It's just it's a very simple goal on paper, but we just don't see enough of it in a United shirt. So it's good to just see that. In terms of his overall game, it was definitely better than his cameo when he got a substitute on against Tottenham, which I thought he looked extremely off the pace, but he looked a lot better today. So I'm assuming the training sessions have helped him. All in all, happy to see him back, happy to see him on the score sheet. I was a bit disappointed for him because obviously when it went 2-2, the service just wasn't there. And obviously on the build-up show, I was saying maybe it's a lack of his movement, and it's really hard to assess whether it is a lack of his movement or they just don't look for him, because I don't feel like they're putting enough quality crosses to him. There was a couple, but most of them were coming from Rashford, if anything did come in. So I think I've got to be honest, I was a bit disappointed with Ahmad today. I don't think Ahmad had a good game all in all. He didn't really affect the game. And I think that didn't really help Hojlund, and obviously Bruno Fernandes as well, which obviously every time he's on the pitch we look like a worse team. When he's not on the pitch and we've got 10 players, we look like a better team. So I think, although Hojlund wasn't at his scintillating best, I do think other factors contributed to that, mainly being Ahmad, lack of creativity today, and Bruno Fernandes not really helping. Eriksen, on the other hand, was actually brilliant. I thought Eriksen was the one player that was really driving forward with the ball and making things happen. I think he got the pre-assist for.
I was going to say, in terms of the Hojlund goal, it was Eriksen that wins it on the centre circle. Rashford that we just mentioned before, he obviously gets the assist. So you've got Rashford who scored, got an assist in that first half as well.
The players that played well were obviously Hojlund, Eriksen, Rashford in terms of attacking front three. But I just think, again, it comes down to that lack of quality in the final third. We're just not seeing enough of it. And, as Tull rightly said, on another day, we're not 2-0 up. We were a bit fortunate with the goals. So we didn't actually create as much chances as we maybe felt that we did. So for me, there's still a lot of work to do. And I think Hojlund, for me, he needs to improve his movement, though, I must say. He definitely needs to improve his movement off the ball.
Yeah. You were delighted to see him in the starting 11 today. Rasmus back. It was a bit of a throwback to when he was last season, when he went on a run of scoring. To see him in there, hunting down, driving forward with the ball. There's a couple of instances there. The last time I can properly remember it really was like the FA Cup final. He come on very late in that game. Just give us that breather, allowed us to get, out of the area, hold the ball up in the kind of final third in that cup final. But we need to be really looking after this guy now, don't we? Because we all know that we don't really have a good backup for him, Dan. But what were your thoughts on him overall today?
I thought he held the defensive line really well. I know you mentioned it about his pressing. I thought that when United were out of possession, he really held that line really well. Hence why I think Rashford could advance a little bit more, unlike when it's Xerxes, like we know he tends to drop inside. So the opposition can play a little bit more in front of us. But yeah, Hojlund held the line brilliantly. I don't know why, in what case or in what world, Xerxes and Hojlund can't play together. I don't understand why that's not a thing, especially when you think you need a goal. And it's not just been in this game either, it's been in the past couple of games when Xerxes has been on. You just feel like he needs someone next to him. Even if balls are getting pinged into the box by the wingers, it's better to have two in there than one, isn't it? And the fact that that's not really happening at the moment is quite a big concern.
How would you fit Xerxes and Hojlund into a team? We have discussed this briefly before, and we were mentioning, could Xerxes play the number 10? But a lot of people say, just go 4-4-2, and then I always think, who plays 4-4-2 these days? Especially in, Premier League, Champions League. I know we're in the Champions League, but even Europa League, not many teams play 4-4-2 anymore, do they?
Sorry, I should have specified. So I was talking about like the last 10 minutes. Do you know when you need a goal? Sorry, when you need a goal, bring on Xerxes. I don't see why that's.
Well, that is a thing of Eric Ten Hag, isn't it? Yeah. Mix up the formation instead of going like for like changes.
I think that's what Fergie used to do, didn't he? Put all the attacking players on, just load them into the box and then just ping balls in and try and find a goal out of somewhere. I don't know why that's not been implemented under Eric Ten Hag. But equally, if you do play them both together or start them in what world that could be, you think Xerxes just behind Hojlund, because then that gives Hojlund, who's given the defensive line of the opposition, he's pushing them back. So Xerxes in the Bruno role, and we know Bruno's passing recently hasn't been that good. I think it's due to burnout, but that's just what I think. And then he can ping the balls to the wings, and then it makes us more attacking. So that's what I think anyway about that.
I was going to say, if Ricky was here now, it's not because of burnout, he's rubbish.
I want to let Dan have his moment, but I do not agree with that, but that's just me.
Interesting you bring up 4-4-2, Kev, because I said this on the last show. If you actually watch United off the ball, they actually press in a 4-4-2. But they have Bruno basically as a striker. He runs around like an headless chicken anyway. If you want to play Xerxes and Hojlund, you got to drop Bruno. He's the only one there who can be dropped. Because it frustrates me anyway, because if you're going to set up as a 4-4-2 off the ball, why not play... And so you've got two people up top. Why not play two strikers? Why does it have to be Bruno? Do you know what I mean?
Bruno's not allowed to get dropped today. He's too good.
It's accommodating. You're basically accommodating for Fernandes, aren't you?
Yeah, well, ultimately, his stubbornness, I keep saying this, if he doesn't set the team right, if he continues to play the players that I believe are not actually paying him back with anything, they just continue to get in the team, it's not like they're actually giving him back anything in that team starting, ultimately the decisions he makes, he will have to live and die by, because the mistakes that he's making in picking the team will ultimately cost him his job. So at the end of the day, he'll have nobody to blame except himself.
No, the Bruno situation. I know this is a bit random, but I love Wayne Rooney. He's my favourite United player of all time. But Do you know when Rooney was coming to the end of his United career, and there was a period where he was absolutely awful, like in the 10 in particular, and he was just costing us game in, game out. I feel like that's how it is with Bruno, and they couldn't drop Rooney for whatever reason. And I feel like with Bruno, just persisting with playing him is essentially going to get him sacked. I mean, we've seen it with other managers, they're dying on that one player, but the Bruno obsession is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if you could sub off Marcus Rashford at half-time, the fact that he keeps on Bruno Fernandes for such long periods, and I mean, the goal actually came because Bruno was sent off the pitch. I mean, obviously we grew in ascendancy when he's not on the pitch, firstly. And secondly, the cross is coming from Eriksen, and we all know if it's a 92nd minute, Bruno Fernandes is taking that corner, Eriksen's not taking it. And Bruno's delivery, he probably would have hit the first man. So, I mean, it's disappointing. That is, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gutted his ban's been rescinded. I've got to be honest. I think we're a better team currently without him. Long term, I think we're also a better team. So, for me, he needs to be dropped if he wants to keep his job. But if he wants to keep him, then he can down his sword.
I think the manner of getting 2 red cards in a row, you got to be dropped.
Absolutely. Is that the team that?
I know the Spurs one. I know the Spurs one.
Controversial,
but
is that the team down twice in a row now?
Yeah, but you've still been sent off the pitch.
Yeah, exactly.
You play the next game. You don't get sent off again.
Do you see the 2
and
tackles
he's already on a yellow. He's got to be dropped. Nobody's exempt from that.
So in a world where Bruno's dropped, who comes in for him? Do we go? Do United go?
Eriksen, great question. I was going to ask.
Eriksen 10, Ugarte, Casemiro, for the love of God, screen that back line.
I agree.
Because they're getting absolutely overrun. And then, like I already said earlier, it then allows Rashford to stay further up the pitch because you've got an Ugarte to go into the sort of channels where Rashford doesn't want to be anyways.
I absolutely agree with Usmaan. And I don't think it's a case of, well, what's Ugarte going to offer us over Bruno? What's Eriksen going to offer us over Bruno? No, what you will get is a team shape.
Exactly.
What you will get is a midfield three that will stick together and nobody will be running out of place, nobody will be covering for anyone. That's what you'll get. This is what I was saying earlier, is we'd almost probably benefit from having a pragmatic manager right now who would set us up a little bit more like playing shit football. We'd probably benefit from it right now, even though we spent ages saying we want to get away from it when we had Van Gaal and Mourinho. These players can't do it.
Diego Simeone, kind of.
These players can't play that type of football. But
the most frustrating thing is the fact that he's not willing to change anything. I mean, like obviously the most famous goal
will cost him his job.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the one thing I knew before him coming to job, one of my close friends is an Ajax fan, and he said he's super stubborn, like Erik ten Hag. That was the one thing that I remember him specifically saying. So. He's just not changed the midfield once. There's gaping holes every single game. Even today, like we mentioned, the João Mario crossing the ball. Like if you've got a competent midfielder, even he will go across and cover that area anyways. Like Rashford, of course you want your winger to track back and that's part of the game, but like a competent midfielder covers that ground anyways because it's on his side of the pitch. So for me, Eriksen, Casemiro together is absolutely ridiculous. They haven't got the legs. I understand Eriksen's in the team for his quality, but he has to make the big call, which is dropping Bruno and pushing Eriksen further forward. Eriksen's absolutely flying at the moment, and the fact of the matter is Bruno is literally our worst player currently based on pure form. So for me, if he wants to keep his job, you've got to make the call and drop the captain.
I'll just read these super chats. I think we'll keep on with Bruno because I was going to bring it in later, but we will talk about the red card. Mohammed says Sunday can't come slow enough. I think every Manchester United fan probably feels that way at the minute. Like, yes, bring on the Villa. After a great 1-0 win in the Champions League against Bayern Munich, they'll certainly have nothing to fear looking at Manchester United at the minute. Akhil says play false 9 and confuse Villa with Xerxes. I think it's going to take a lot more than trying to confuse Villa. It sounds very easy. Hosvlado, thanks for the super chat, didn't actually say anything. United won back in the chat, said not Ahmad's fault. The team just insists on playing on the left, and it's been like that for ages to accommodate Rashford. Rarely do they try the right side. Is that a fair comment?
I think when you've had so much luck down the left side with Rashford, you're just going to keep exposing that area, aren't you? Especially if their fullback's going to keep going up and down the line. It'll be stupid not to. And if Ahmad is getting the ball, and like you said, he didn't have the best of games today, then he's not really going to be inclined to get the ball over Rashford as much, is he? So.
Yeah. I do agree with Usmaan. I was slightly disappointed with Ahmad, but again, it's not the kind of game that he just never got into it. I don't think he did anything wrong, but I suppose when Rashford was having that much joy in the first half, a lot of it centred down there, and football teams will do that. Once you know a player's got that, sort of right back or left back or whoever it is, and they're having that much of a goal that they're getting that much joy, the team will tend, to basically send everything down that channel. Ryan Downs says £15 on Super Chats. Not read one out, why not? Just did, mate. I don't think there's any more there anyway. But Terence says, exposed for not having a class left back, guys. There is talk of, is that for us, exposed for not having a class left back?
I mean,
Luke Shaw, we've heard, could possibly be back after the international break.
It does make sense, doesn't it? Because
what are you shaking your head at?
if you think about 2 seasons ago, United had the best record for defensive clean sheets in the Premier League. Who have United lost since then? De Gea.
Basically Luke Shaw.
Basically Luke Shaw. Varane as well.
Oh yeah.
You respect Varane, please.
So they are key figures, don't get me wrong, but I know the players who have come in aren't obviously identical. But what's gone wrong? What's happened in the training sessions to say what's that defensive line got so bad compared to 2 seasons ago?
That's a good point. Mark Kiglin Tully.
Yeah, I've just spotted that one. That's you, Dad. You've not put your message in, Dad. You've sent a
quid. Really? I was going to say.
You've sent Dad. You've sent a quid and you've not put your message, mate.
Mr. Tully in the chat. You'd love to see that.
I want to know what he's got to say.
Text me, Dad.
Do you know what?
Text me on WhatsApp. We'll read it out.
He probably hasn't got anything to say. He's probably speechless like after the match. He's thinking.
Drop me a WhatsApp, Dad, and we'll read it.
Or maybe he put like a really, really long chat in and it had that many swear words in and it actually cut them all out before it went on the screen. Maybe that's what it was.
I'll keep my eye on.
Shahid says, letting Amrabat go was a huge mistake in my opinion. Him and Ugarte would have been the perfect double pivot and we could use Bruno Xerxes in the 10.
I don't want to hear Bruno's name ever again, man. Like, I'm done with that guy. I was done with him ages ago.
Let's get on right.
Let's let that Dan, because I know Dan's a fan. Let you make it.
No, I do believe that Bruno should be dropped or sidelined for at least a game or 2. I do believe that. I'm not delusional or anything
you say your
like
piece. Don't worry.
I just think that because he's been United's talisman, he's been there in the last 4 seasons or so. He's such a big figure to get rid of, and don't get me wrong, he is the captain, and when you look and he is moaning coming off the pitch.
But the risk of sounding like Roy Keane when he says to Jamie Carragher, but you said nearly, I could say, but you said had been. He has been the talisman.
Yeah. And you know what, maybe his time is up, but Ten Hag's staying with him at the moment, and
where's that guy? It was 8th and 15th probably, by the coming end of Villa. You got to remember one thing, right? Our fans are absolutely delusional, and they keep comparing us to Arteta. But the funniest thing is, what did Arteta do? He got rid of Aubameyang, the captain. And that completely changed the fortunes of the team. So if you want to do that, let's follow Arteta. But when it comes to talking Bruno Fernandes, our fans don't want to hear it. I mean, every time you mention Bruno Fernandes within this fan base, everyone treats him like he's a god. And the way I see football, especially for Manchester United, no player is bigger than the club. And look, you can say what you want here, but what he's done in the past, like that's a non-conversation. I think his numbers speak for themselves, especially in the first 18 months. But the truth of the matter is, for me, since Erik ten Hag's got here, he's not strung 5 games together consistently that you thought, this is Bruno's back to his best. Like, we've never said, oh, Bruno's back to his best since ten Hag's got here. Like, he was absolutely phenomenal under Ole, but he's just not been at that level, and he's 30 as well. So
I actually think Solskjaer set up to get the best out of Bruno.
Absolutely.
I think the way we played football under Solskjaer, where we played, we almost sat back and we played on the counter-attack. I think Bruno Fernandes is actually better when he has less time on the ball. I think when thinking comes into the equation with Bruno, I've got to think about what I'm doing. That's like when he cocks it up. I think when he has the ball for 1 second, he looks up, there's my ball, and he sends the ball like we did under Solskjaer when it was just Bruno pinging it to Rashford. That's almost when you got the best out of Bruno. It is almost like now with the way we want to play football. We've been saying it for a while. Bruno's holding us back when we play, because there's even just little 5-yard passes where it's like, what do you even put it down to other than like a lack of concentration or just being too erratic when it's just a simple 5-yard ball and and he'll just get it completely wrong.
Do you know what I find mad? I know people, probably speaking to United fans, and I was kind of on board with it myself. And it sounds crazy, this, but obviously Bruno's red card against Tottenham, it would have been, a 3-match ban, wasn't it? United obviously appealed that. You know, I know people, I was actually, at the time, once I knew he had the 3-game ban, I'm thinking, all right, you know, well, this might now be the opportunity now to mix this position up and change it. Whoever he's going to go with, whether it's going to be Xerxes, if Mount can get fit, or just try something different in this midfield. I know there's people that when that red card got rescinded, and that means now he's available to play for them 3 games, that have kind of seen that as a bit of a setback because Erik Ten Hag is so stubborn in his way that it's almost like the only way we could have got him out the team just as this little trial over a 3-game period to see if something different worked.
Well, the experiment happens against Fenerbahce, doesn't it? Because he's not available for that game now. So
I mean, that's not a fair experiment, is it? Really,
it's going to be one game.
If Bruno plays if Bruno plays that game, we lose anyways. If Bruno doesn't play, we lose anyways. Like the way I see it is very situational on the manager now. Like if he's not here, if Erik Ten Hag's not here, come the Fenerbahce game, then okay, maybe we can have a conversation. But the truth of the matter is, he sets us up so poorly, we're going to get exposed either way. So the way I see it, that Fenerbahce game's a write-off. If Erik Ten Hag stays, we're going to get cooked. Like, it's just, he sets us up so poorly in the middle of the park. We're literally open, season in, season out. How have we got, was it like 25 plus games where we conceded 3 or more goals, which is the first time any manager's done that? Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's not a coincidence. I mean, if you watch Manchester United Football Club and you try to look at our style of football, it's essentially a basketball game. Every single game is basketball football, is end-to-end football, and that's because we've got next to no control. And that comes down to Bruno Fernandes and the other midfielders, because as a midfielder, it's your job to have control of the game. And a lot of our play goes through Bruno Fernandes, whether we want to admit it or not. It's that when you have Ronaldo on the pitch, for Portugal, they're constantly looking for Ronaldo, and that's a net negative for them. And that's what we do. We're constantly looking for Bruno Fernandes. And when Bruno Fernandes got the ball, he's not doing anything on the ball. So the play gets broken. So for me, one game is not enough to see it through. Like we need a sustained period of time. Of course, we know that's not realistic. That's not going to happen. So I'm not, deluded enough to think that that's going to be the case. But the way I see it is Erik Ten Hag is going to get sacked because he's persisting with the exact same midfield that has not worked for the best part of 2 years.
We've got Tull's dad is now, he's not very tech savvy, is he? He's managed to send a text message. He put super chat in before, but he says, would you take another trophy this season? Let's say that somehow the Europa League, but 12th place finish in the Prem. But we retain Erik Ten Hag for another season. A tempting proposition, I'd say, but ultimately it's not what Manchester United are about. And he's also followed it with another one saying, I don't know what I'm doing, son. Laugh out loud. I love that.
What a man.
I wouldn't, Dad. I think we all knew coming into this season that it's time to get it right in the league now.
Thanks.
We all knew it. It's not that we weren't happy with the trophies because, how long had it been since we'd won the FA Cup, Kev? Remember, we were saying it'd been the best part of 10 years and we were buzzing that day and we were like, how nice is it to win the FA Cup again? But we all knew, we've got to get it right in the league. You can't just you can't be a cup team. Yeah. Wigan Athletic were a cup team at one point. Do you know what I mean? We don't want to drop down to that level. We've got to get it right in the league. I cannot see us getting anything against Villa. I really can't see us even getting a draw against Villa. If we get beat by Villa, it's 7 points from the first 21.
Well, let's just listen and dissect what Erik Ten Hag's actually said after this game. He said, we started the game very good, but we lost control. We finished the game very good. The middle part, the defending, we have to improve. We have to defend better. It's that word that we keep saying. We're talking about the fact that Rashford might have come off because he wasn't defending. Is this the new sort of mindset of Erik Ten Hag? Has it always been there? Erik Ten Hag says Marcus Rashford was taken off due to rotation and not due to injury. So he has confirmed that now. This story will certainly run. Marcus Rashford's obviously a big name. So's Manchester United. And when two tribes collide or whatever, I've just made that saying up, don't make any sense. But
two giants collide, maybe.
Yeah, it's something like two tribes go to war or something. Erik ten Hag also said, we have 2 seasons where we achieve finals. Just wait, we have to develop. This is some of the stuff that would knock you kind of crazy with Erik ten Hag. And I know you can't pull the wool over supporters' eyes. He's starting to go down the same route as Solskjaer did, as previous managers, Louis van Gaal. When managers start coming out with these quotes that are just there basically to deflect away from maybe a poor performance, not the result that they wanted. Don't judge us in the moment, judge us at the end of the season. So again, that's quite an easy thing for him to come out and say, isn't it?
It's what
judge us at the
1 win in 10 in Europe. Are you taking the mick? 1 win in 10. We came last in an awful Champions League group. He's got that absolute audacity to just be a man and take accountability and say, no what? It's not been good enough. Like if he came out and said, it's just not been good enough. This isn't the standards of Manchester United, and I take accountability for it. I understand that we made mistakes in defence or whatever it may be, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. He can't say that because he doesn't want to lose his job. It's all self-preservation with him. Like literally, all his press conferences is self-preservation. Be a man and take accountability, because at the end of the day, it comes to 1 win in 10. Manchester United have won, and it's not like we've played. I know we had Bayern Munich. Okay, that was a poor Bayern Munich, by the way. But apart from Bayern Munich, who have we really played in Europe that you're like, oh well, we've had a really tough run, and we haven't had hard teams. We couldn't beat FC20 at Old Trafford, and he's asking Garnacho to defend when we're 1-0 up. Come on, man, do us a favour.
Well, on Marcus Rashford, taking him off at half-time, he has spoken on this. You talk about deflecting. He says we have to rotate. On Sunday, we have another hard game. We need players to be fit and fresh. We had to play Garnacho. We go quickly to Villa. They have an extra day to recover. So is it not about...
For me, Bayern Munich, by the way.
We're in no position at this moment in time. You are talking about a manager who is on the brink after everything that's been written this week. You lose this game tonight, and you more or less, it's not the final nail in your coffin, but you then go to Villa Park and you've got absolutely no chance. The vultures will be circling Old Trafford. You bring off your best player at half-time, who was, head and shoulders above everybody else, your most direct outlet, scored a goal, made a goal, and yet you come out and say, we have to rotate. On Sunday, we have another hard game.
No, if I would have loved to have been in that press conference, I don't know who he's getting interviewed by, because my rebuttal would have been, well, why are you not rotating Bruno Fernandes then?
Brilliant.
Because he's the only player that's not been rotated once, plays 90 minutes week in, week out. But Rashford, who literally was on the bench the day after bagging 2 goals in 2, it's an absolute cop-out. He thinks we're idiots, and he needs to respect the fans. I mean, fans have gone all the way to Portugal to watch this game, and he's coming out with nonsense like that. With all due respect, man, he's just taking the fans for a mug there. Just be honest and say, look, it was a tactical substitution. Don't bring us this rotation nonsense, because it's not true, is it? He doesn't need Rashford. A fit player like Rashford can only play 45 minutes. Like, come on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, nobody gets up to half-time without something.
Rashford can only play 45 minutes, apparently. Yeah. Since when?
Something's gone on. I think it's the tactical thing. Why he doesn't want to talk about it almost feels like Rashford's got an earful at half-time and he's trying to keep the media spotlight off of it.
Well, that's the thing you say, giving him an earful at half-time. Benny McCarthy said, who's being that person who's giving the players at half-time or at full-time? Who's being aggressive? Who's going towards the player? Not giving them the hairdryer treatment so much, but who's going to be that person? Because if it's not Ten Hag, and anyone else isn't saying that it's Ruud van Nistelrooy or René Hake, who is it? Because it's not going to be coming from Ten Hag, is it? We know that.
Yeah, great point. We're getting up to the end of the forum, actually. I don't think there's much point in covering the goals that Porto scored this evening, is there? Unless you think, well, I suppose defensively, we didn't cover ourselves in glory. I'm sure there's some people out there that might think that Onana could have possibly done better. I did being highly critical there, saying that.
The second goal, I thought, maybe could have stepped out, but then when I watched it again, I thought, no, realistically, it's a great cross. It's a great cross, and I don't think Onana really could have done much. All he had time to do was brace himself. He didn't have time to get out and you know, do anything about it. Talking about Onana, actually, got to give him credit where it's due. He made a great save when we were still 3-2 down. We should have been 4-2 down when we had 10 men, and that would have been game over, and that could have been Ten Hag's job done tonight. So Onana deserves a little bit of credit for that. In terms of the first goal, which was the first goal again? Was that another? Oh, that was Mazraoui, actually. Mazraoui had it again in Onana's defence.
Pushes it into the middle of the goal. If you're being highly critical, we did say that De Gea would have saved that.
De Gea's catching that.
De Gea catches that, lands on the floor.
Yeah, literally. But he, like you said, he saved us for the 1-on-1, so, you know, it is what it is. I think he's done enough. Like, he's got enough credit in the bank in the last 2 games. Probably the only player that's got any credit in the bank, realistically. Like, saved us from absolute embarrassment against Spurs. And as you said, he got us a point today, without a doubt.
Right, we need to. This is a moment in United stand history. Harry Maguire scores 3-3. I'll give Usmaan the floor on this one. He called it. The big man went up from the back. It was like something out of a movie.
Yes.
Usmaan leapt out of his seat and said, "This is his time."
Yeah,
Harry Maguire. Eriksen crosses the ball in. Maguire leaps like a salmon. Usmaan screaming, jumped on me, and then he was like, "Was it Harry Maguire?" I said, "It was, mate." What can you say?
Harry Maguire from Sheffield. Love to see it.
He's took some stick, and listen, mainly from me in the past as well.
Me as well.
The one thing I will say about this guy, he's been stripped of the captaincy. He's, you know, the humiliation of that, to have once been leading this team, to be demoted in that way, not to be involved in the team. The one thing he has always done is remained training, kept himself in shape. Yes, he's not the most orthodox player, but when he's ready and called on, he comes on the pitch. He makes no fuss. He doesn't throw his toys out the pram. I'm pretty sure that wherever Erik ten Hag asks him to play in this team, he would do it. He'd be the ball boy, the mascot. He'd play in net. He'd play left back, right back, up front. Whatever you want me to do, I will play. And in a way, you take your eye off the ball with some players sometimes. You take them for granted. You might be a bit harsh on them. But this evening, Harry Maguire, to come on, score, you know, and it's a massive goal for Erik ten Hag. At this time last season, or not this time, but last season he had Scott McTominay that was digging him out of a hole against the likes of Brentford, Villa, scoring massive goals that kept him in a job. He doesn't have that anymore. I'm not saying Maguire's going to be this new super sub, you know, hero, but credit where credit's due. Harry Maguire.
Yeah, no, phenomenal header. Like, fair play to him. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to what you said in terms of all that praise, but look,
come on, dig deep. You can find it in your heart. Where's your heart?
No, the way I see it is, right, I think with our fans we do get carried away a lot, but like, he deserves his credit for today. Him and Johnny Evans absolutely embarrassed De Ligt and Martinez. I mean, within like the 15-minute span that they were on the pitch, and we had 10 men at that point as well, they were like far better than them too. So it's really a massive indictment of where we are as a football club, that he's having to take both centre-backs off to bring on 2 centre-backs that are essentially castaways, and they look the better partnership. So look, huge credit to Maguire, huge credit to Evans. You know, it was very difficult for them against, you know, they were playing a high line, chasing the game and so forth, and he delivered when he mattered. I mean, happy for him on a personal level. Like he said, he's gone through the ringer essentially at Manchester United. I've criticised him. I'm sure a lot of United fans watching this have criticised him, but a great moment for him, and he most definitely saved us today. 10 men, what a moment, great header. Yeah, you love to see it. You love to see it. We'll take the point. We'll take the point and run.
Anything else to add on Harry Maguire, Dan and Tull?
I just think for a mentality like that, getting all that abuse online, like you said, and in person.
It wasn't me before anyway. I never abused him online. I might have said a few things on the United stand, but
for him to come back like that, I've not seen that from a player. I don't know. You could see maybe David Beckham when he came back. I know that was different with a bit international duty wise, but he bounced back really well. And for a player like I say to have that mentality to come back to still want to wear the United shirt, which United have lacked in the past 10 years, is huge.
And we've questioned a lot of these players' to mentality, haven't we? They've not got the mentality to play for this club, and that a lot of people will still maintain they don't believe Harry Maguire is good enough to play for United, but it was a big moment for him on a personal level this evening.
credit where credit's due. We've stood a lot of pressure. You know, we had the arrest in Greece. He had the captaincy taken off him. I mean, just it's enough to make a player crumble. And he's there when he's called upon. So, yeah.
Anthony Tracy with the super chat, he says, if you want to play a game, drink a shot every time Erik ten Hag says process. I might have a go at that on Saturday night. I'd probably be absolutely arsehole, wouldn't you? Because he does say process. Must have said it. How many times he said it in his... He's probably said it about 10 times in his post-match press conference, hasn't he? Anyway, but right, I had loads to get through. I think we've touched on Harry Maguire, we've touched on Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes. We knew it was going to be action-packed when you've got 6 goals in a Europa League game, when Harry Maguire's coming off the bench and scoring headers to earn you that in the 91st minute. Bruno Fernandes getting sent off, but we have to do player of the match. Sorry, just say. Got to be PC on here. If you do you want to start with Tull or we work from the outside in?
Let Tull start.
I wanted you to start, man.
Get into the,
I know who mine is.
Get into the chat now as well. Start putting yours in. I'll get a good idea of what everybody who's obviously watching live now, who they're going to say as their player of the match.
Yeah, mine's Eriksen without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I've been screaming for him to play in the number 10 for the best part of a couple of games now. Showing his quality when it mattered. Got the assist, got the pre-assist, and when it really mattered, when the chips were down, put it on an absolute plate for Harry Maguire to attack that. And you know what, credit to him, because I had him dead and buried as a United player. And even for the second goal as well, the fact that he stepped into midfield and drove with the ball, I've not seen him do that in ages. And obviously picked out the right pass, and then Rashford eventually passed it to Hojlund. He just oozes quality and composure. I just wish someone could give him his legs, because you'd be an unbelievable play for us. So without a doubt, Eriksen for me, quality, please put him in the number 10 and let the man cook.
Yeah. Tess in the chat is saying Eriksen ? Is this guy, on something? I would say, Tess, did you watch the game? I'm actually agreeing 100% with Usmaan. Dan, have you got anything different? We do like to mix it up sometimes, but listen, if Eriksen is your player of the match.
No, I'm going for Marcus Rashford.
Right,
I know it was only a first half performance, but the impact he had on United in that first half, I've not seen a first half by Marcus Rashford like that in a very long time. Being so direct to the ball, like I say, he has been caught out with his lacking of getting back and passing it back. But today, like I say, he was a transformative, he was a completely different player. And the 2 goals that United scored, he was a vital part of those 2 goals.
That's really, really interesting, that. Sati says, ironic that the captain was red carded and Harry stepped in with resilience, disciplined and power. You're loving this Harry Maguire love affair, aren't you? You're loving it. Tull, have you managed to have a think of who you're going on man of the match?
Yeah, I've heard a bit of a cop-out. I'm not picking a man of the match. Refuse to pick a man of the match.
Oh, come on, you spoil sport.
But what I will do is I'll do a joint man of the match of Maguire and Evans, because when we
I really thought you were going to say Onana, I'm not going to lie.
No, well, the save was good, but for me, De Ligt and Martinez were having howlers, like serious howlers. We called upon experience when we needed it, and it's paid off.
It makes you wonder, looking ahead at Villa Park now, that Martinez, De Ligt centre-back pairing.
They've got off scot-free on the show, by the we barely mentioned them. They were absolutely horrific.
Yeah, they were terrible. 1 out of 10 for both of them.
They were shocking, weren't they?
Yeah.
On Christian Eriksen, I had written down 100 ground duels won. 100%, ground duels won, 100% successful take-ons, 87% pass accuracy, 10 crosses, 6 chances created, 2 tackles, 2 assists.
Sensational.
My man of the match, Christian Eriksen. Dan, I think Rashford is a great call, and Tull, I'm still looking for your dummy down here. You threw your toys out the pram. He said, I'm not giving one. I'm not giving a man of the match. But has anybody got anything to say? I mean, looking ahead to... It doesn't really... Looking ahead to Villa Park, like that Super Chat said earlier, it can't come slow enough. I think I feel like that. And do you know what it is with Manchester United at the minute? I used to hate international breaks. Now I actually really, really look forward to them coming around because I get just a bit of a break and a rest from that. You know, that ruins me weekend every weekend.
Yeah, I'll just finish on what I said last week. Make sure you captain Watkins on FPL.
Yeah, I actually might do it though. Like,
just thank me later because he is bagging a hat-trick. Oh, Lord have mercy on us.
I think we're going to get battered.
Do you rate
well, we want to finish on a positive.
I said last week we're going to get battered. I said we'll get beat by Spurs, Porto and Villa. We got beat by Spurs.
Well, you were wrong about Porto, so you never know.
We've managed to get something from Porto.
There's hope.
I still think we're going to get beat by Villa.
We didn't just get something from Porto. Harry Maguire.
Exactly. Harry Maguire said not today.
Yeah. It's mental.
Not on my watch.
Because I did say before the game, if we get a point, I'll be happy. But it's just the manner of losing 2-0 lead in 6 minutes, man.
Mark Lawton, member for 38 months of the United Stand Members Club, says, do you think Bruno is a worse captain than Maguire was? We need a stat on who has captained the most 3-0 losses. If we had
that's Bruno, obviously.
Yeah, I would say
because
it is, isn't it?
Eric Ten Hag literally broke the record, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bruno has captained to 2 trophies, no?
Yeah.
So, technically, who cares, man? Like, we're 13th and City are going for a 5p. Like, can we keep it 100? Like, it's either City, Liverpool, or Arsenal. It's a lose-lose-lose for us. Like, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but what are we actually doing here? Like, if we lose to Aston Villa, we're below Ipswich. And West Ham.
Some serious dark
So come on, like we have to win it. I don't even know.
Listen, it's nice to have a wake-up call now and again. Sometimes you need
absolutely,
that.
Absolutely.
You certainly. How many years have we had where we're literally just papering over the cracks? You know, it almost seems to be we win a game and then we lose. You know, it's one step forward, 2 steps back. We've been in this cycle for years, but at the same time, you wouldn't really be that surprised if United did somehow find a way to beat Aston Villa on Sunday. This lot are all looking and laughing at me, sniggering away. But it would just be typical of Eric Ten Hag. Whenever he's on the ropes, he somehow seems to find something, but we will have to see anyway. But what I would say is we're going to wrap up. It's late. People have got work and stuff to go to and beds to go to. But first of all, Usmaan, pleasure as always. Thank you very much for coming on the Fan Forum. And Dan, enjoyed it again, did you?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, obviously I've been on twice and it's been 2 draws now, so it's not ideal, but it's not 2 losses.
You're invincible.
It's not 2 losses.
I was going to say you need to spin this round and talk it up.
Yeah, why you say that? You've never lost.
You say we've never been beaten.
Right.
I've been on the Fan Forum.
Dan.
Yeah,
that's what it is. And Tull, thank you very much, sir. Great to have Mr. Tully getting in the chat as well. And
oh, yeah.
Leaving a super chat, but then texting. We got through the kind of technical issues. But what I would say is stick around on the United Stand. You'll have your 10 a.m. show coming up tomorrow. Go home, get your head down, have a good sleep. Harry Maguire, 3-3 against FC Porto in Portugal. And as Eric Ten Hag would say, we move on. You've been watching the biggest Man United fan channel in the land. This was the United Stand. Good night.